The following opinions and quotations in no way represent RiverWestRadio.com and are the sole responsibility of breaking down the news, its producers, callers, and guests. RiverWestRadio.com is not liable for any, legal matters that would affect us. Basically, they claim no liability and these issues do not necessarily represent RiverWestRadio.com. All right, that's the disclaimer. Now let's get on with the show.
Obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth. You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought out loud, that thought exists, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
Illusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Illusions, the Bible, poetry, essays of all kinds, all of it an opiate to make you think you have a strength when you have no strength at all. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Yeah? Well, we're gonna have to do something about that. This is RiverWestRadio.com, community-supported radio streaming live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm your host. My name is Michael Wordsworth, and welcome to Breaking Down the News, the show that presents the news highlights of the week, but with a twist. Breaking Down the News is more concerned in bringing you information that wasn't covered on the front pages. Headlines you don't want to miss, because not listening could be dangerous to your freedom, liberty, and health.
And good afternoon. It is Wednesday, July 11th, 2012. I am Michael Wordsworth. Today's topic is Syria. We're getting serious about Syria today because it is one of the biggest pieces of propaganda I can find on the news net today. That's right. Syria is one of the biggest examples of American propaganda. I mean, it's just crazy that I'm sitting here even saying that. I mean, we always assume that the news puts spin on itself to some degree. Of course. It's understood that not everything gets reported, and oftentimes it's simply a lie of omission. But in this case, the only thing I could think that is topping American propaganda at this point is the situation on Iran. That's right. We insist that Iran has a nuclear weapon or is soon to develop a nuclear weapon. The IAEA has confirmed that that's not true. Our own CIA has confirmed that's not true. I forgot what senator or congressman actually conducted an investigation into this. But basically, if you look into it, it's just not true. If you just poke below the surface a little bit. What is crazy is that they need to sell this lie to the American people, that we have a reason to deploy all our troops, our Navy. It's all being centered now on Iran. And I've warned before that if we go to war with Iran, this is not going to be one of those, yeah, boy, situations. It's not going to be a woohoo. It's going to be because at the gas pump, you're going to see the dollar per gallon amount go up to $6-8, maybe more. I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, conservative estimates have been $6 to $8. There's this little thing, this little channel of water that runs parallel to the Iranian coast on the west side. It's called the Straits of Hormuz. That's right, the Straits of Hormuz. Most of us didn't get geography in school, so it's important to understand that it's estimated 80% of the world's oil comes through there, which is actually pretty amazing. I mean, honestly, 80% of the world's oil. And the situation being, if we close that sucker down, boy, you're going to see oil prices go through the roof, which is great for the companies. But back to Syria, again, here we have another piece of propaganda. If you noticed, the American foreign policy has had an agenda as of late. And from what I can ascertain, that agenda is that we're going to destabilize the Middle East. We spent all those decades putting all those puppet dictators in place on the basis that we were going to secure the Middle East and maintain our hegemonic status in the world by having the world reserve currency, which was basically pegged to oil. All the other currencies are pegged to the dollar, but this currency is pegged to oil. And if the situation, some of you might not know this, but I mean, honestly, you could not, from another country, buy oil unless you first converted your currency into American dollars. They called them OPEC dollars, petroleum dollars, petrodollars. There you go. There's the cute little term they gave it, petrodollars. Essentially, when a currency is redeemable, it works. And there's a lot of liquidity of cash when you are constantly purchasing oil to the tune of 85 million barrels a day, is it? I believe it is. I believe it's 85 million barrels a day. I have so many facts and figures stuck in my head. I do my best to recall them accurately. But I read a lot of news, read a lot of data, take it all in. And it's not that I particularly care about the news per se. I mean, I don't blame you if you feel that way. Honestly, we do our best here to bring you the most relevant news. And right now I'd like to read about how just Syria, you got to stop believing the lie. So like I say, just please, if you can't do anything, I understand. You're not rich. You don't have much power. Maybe nobody listens to you. It's hard to get your kids to listen to you nowadays. But the point being is you can still stop believing the lie. I mean, you can openly admit to people like, no, Republican, Democrat, they're both lying. The American media, I think I got an article somewhere in here today just talking about how people are pulling away from mainstream media. They just can't even deal with it anymore because they know that it's just such a blatant lie. Well, this article comes from the opednews.com. And basically it's titled, "There Will Be Hell to Pay for NATO's Holy War." It's an interesting title. But in a sense, I mean, this is kind of, we shouldn't call it a holy war. We should not call it a holy war. But it practically is. So let me read this article, okay? U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is running out of rhetorical ammunition in the U.S.'s holy war against Syria. Perhaps it's the strain of launching a NATO war bypassing the UN Security Council. Perhaps it's the strain of being eaten for breakfast routinely by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Hillary has just called on Western powers and their Arab stooges, known as the NATO GCC compound, that passes for the international community. They're always referring that the international community is displeased with Syria's Bashar al-Assad. Well, who is this international community? When you dig below the surface, you find out it's like this article saying, a couple of Arab stooges. I mean, literally, not respectable Arab gentlemen. And we're talking about guys that are bought and paid for by the same government interests that buy and pay for us. So, anyhow, let me continue with the article. All right. To make it clear that Russia and China will pay a price because they're holding up progress. This is the quote that Hillary said. She says, Western powers, she wants to make it clear that Russia and China will pay a price because they're holding up progress regarding weaponized regime change in Syria. I almost have to break that down. It gets so confusing. In non-speak news terms, this means if you block our new war, there will be payback. That's basically what she's saying. She's saying that, and get this straight, American public, that if you block our new war against Syria, a war that's been is attempting to be justified on the basis that Bashar al-Assad is a brutal dictator again, just like Gaddafi, just like Saddam Hussein, just like Mubarak, Egypt's former ruler. We declare them, oh, they're evil. And because a lot of you, quite frankly, out there don't really have an opinion on anything other than, what you watched last night. Sorry to say that. I mean, it's true. I mean, just admit it. Many people out there are ignorant. Hopefully the listeners of the show are not among them. I would think that you wouldn't be tuning in and listening to this kind of talk unless you at least comprehended it on some level and it made sense. And I would definitely like to think the listeners out there had more on the ball than the average American public who, quite admittedly, I mean, look, it's like my commercials say, the millions of sleep-deprived Americans walking around in a zombie-like state, amplified by psych meds and pharmaceuticals found in the drinking water. Yeah, there you go. Nation of zombies. All right, come on, let me continue here. Let's read the news. Well, after Hillary made this statement basically stating that if you block our new war, there will be payback. I mean, she's warning the Chinese and the Russians. This is what she's doing. She's saying Russia and China, there'll be payback. Like we're little kids on the street or like little gangs in the hood. I mean, it's embarrassing. Well, howls of laughter in the corridors of the Kremlin and the Chinese capital as well. Notwithstanding, this shows how desperate the NATO GCC compound is to force regime change in Syria as a stopover in cutting off Iran's privileged connection with the Arab world. And this, while Turkey's Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, leading NATO's eastern flank, well, while he itches to attack Syria but can't find a way to sell it to the Turkish public opinion. Into this incandescent context plunges WikiLeaks. Julian Assange and his WikiLeaks, well, releasing a batch of very embarrassing emails against the Assad team and the NATO rebels as well. A possible side effect will be to inspire waves of so-called progressives all across the West to start supporting the holy war on Syria. That ain't too hard. All you have to do is put it through the right news channels, and pretty soon you'll have every liberal in town parodying the same warmongering rap that was shoved down their throats through the media. I mean, it's just so embarrassing that way. Are there any Democrats that are against war anymore? I mean, it's kind of traditional that Republicans seem to be for war, at least since the Bush era. I mean, that's the overall impression that we're given now. But what have we gotten for our wars, guys? How's this war economy treating you? You might be thinking, pretty good, things are going great. Well, they're not. I don't even want to get into that right now. However, I got to stay on track. Come on. All right. Car bombing tourism, anyone? That's right. It's useful to examine what price Washington itself, not to mention its NATO subjects, could be paying for this holy war branch out fought with who else? The same bunch of terrorists who until yesterday were about to destroy Western civilization and turn it into a giant cesspool. Well, through terrorism. Well, Washington, London, and Paris have tried twice to twist the UN Security Council into yet another war. They were blocked by Russia and China, so Plan B was to bypass the UN and launch a NATO war. Problem is, NATO has no stomach and no funds for a very risky war with a country that can actually defend itself. Thus came along Plan C, the third alternative, is to bet on a prolonged civil war using the far from free Syrian army. They have the Free Syrian Army, the People's Army, crammed with mercenaries and jihadists, the very ones that we claim to be terrorists, but we're helping and supporting them now to overthrow this government. That's what we did in Libya, too. That's right. Everybody now knows the Libyan, the Al-Qaeda flag flies over the oil fields in the east. Yay. I mean, we got to lose all of our freedoms and rights here because of Al-Qaeda, but when they help to overthrow Egypt, Libya, or Syria, then we're for them. No, it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense to you. You should be very confused at this point because, well, we're being lied to. Well, the Syrian National Council, known as the SNC, has actually called for a Libya-style no-fly zone over Syria, shorthand for a NATO war. I mean, basically, that's what it amounts to, is when you call for a no-fly zone. They like to say no boots on the ground, which is a quaint term for no active military actually deployed in that country fighting from us. So the American public doesn't reel back when it, hears about bombings and flying drones over and no-fly zones being established. That doesn't sound like war, does it? No, not at all. I mean, the United States, NATO, and the UN, collectively known as the Anglo-American Empire, is really starting little proxy wars all over the world. I mean, they are encircling China. And even just talking to the people on the street here, people that really don't know much, they understand. I mean, they have enough common sense to understand that we can't take China. There's no way we can. It's not wise to provoke the Chinese, much less the Russians, the Iranians, and all the Arab nations all at once. This is not a good idea. Well, anyhow, Iraq's foreign minister, Hoshyar Zabari, who's actually a Kurdish, has warned that Salafi al-Jihadis of the Al-Qaeda mold are moving into Syria in droves. I mean, so now we got Iraq's foreign minister warning us that, look, Al-Qaeda is moving into Syria. Are we concerned about that? No, we're helping them. We're working with Al-Qaeda now. And out there you might be thinking, well, naively, that there's some good in all this, that the government actually, they must have a better knowledge than you do, right? I mean, this is some sort of trick. No. We're colluding with the very people that we're insisting we have to give up all our rights for here in this country. That's why you got the TSA at the airports and the loss of civil rights and liberties through the NDAA, HR 1957, HR 347. It's all based on this threat of Al-Qaeda. You know, I mean, and just most people don't know enough to be able to discern fact from fiction. So let's continue to help them. I mean, hopefully they're listening today. Well, for months, everybody knows that the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group of Al-Qaeda linked to Abdul Hakim Balhaj as being active in Syria, as well as remnants of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, now responsible for car bombings even in Damascus. In the event of a post-Assad Syria dominated by hardcore Sunnis, there's two types of Muslim factions. The primary ones are Sunni and Shia. And the Sunnis were the ones in control in Iraq under Saddam Hussein. I mean, they were secularist under him, meaning that they didn't have any actual religious affiliation to the Orthodox Church, or in this case, temple. But nonetheless, the Iranians are predominantly Shia. And so what you have is an interesting division out there, because Sunni and Shia live side by side throughout the Middle East. You know, it's pretty common. And there are tensions between them. I mean, they're two rival parties, so there's going to be tensions between them. But basically, never forget, in Iraq, we threw out the Sunnis, tried to work with the Shia, couldn't do it, and just decided to move the Sunni back in and pay them off. I keep saying, like, we didn't need military troops to go into Iraq. We just needed ambassadors with suitcases full of cash, because that's what all we did anyhow. I mean, maybe gave them, you could have given them armed guards, military support to bring in the cash, make sure nobody steals it before we give it away, and just pay off our enemies, who aren't really our enemies. I shouldn't have even said that. That was inaccurate on my part. It's important. I say I almost fell for the lie myself. Well, now, let me take a commercial break, come back, and I'm going to read an article from the Huffington Post that covers basically the same topic regarding Syria that I just covered. But this time, I'm going to expose all the spin and propaganda that is found in this article. So when I come back, I'm going to read an article I do not agree with, but I'm doing it solely for the purpose of educating us, the U.S. citizens, that propaganda is rampant all over the news media. So be right back. Got some new commercials. Listen them up. They're kind of funny, and I love them. We don't play actual commercials here. We play anti-commercials. So enjoy them.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. Are you tired of commercials always telling you that you're tired? When you know you're tired because you wake up early and go to bed late, and every moment in between is spent trying to figure out how you're going to make that next dollar. Well, you're not alone. Millions of Americans are walking around in a sleep-deprived, zombie-like state, amplified by psych meds and pharmaceuticals found in the drinking water. So just be glad you're not one of them, unless you are. In which case, I'm sorry you had to hear this. But wait, there's more. If we keep at this current pace, we will surely lose our democratic republic and soon be standing in food lines for the poisonous rations the new totalitarian government will hand out. Don't delay. Get involved. Get informed. When you're out on the road, you want to know them tires are touching the pavement. You want rubber to concrete. When you're out there, you want to drive knowing that you're in control of the wheel. Well, what about your government? Don't you think your government should have its reality check and the rubber hit the pavement? What's going to put the brakes on the rampant fiscal spending, budget problems? It's not the voter, it's not the constituents, it won't be the leaders. The problem ain't the leaders, it's the followers. Get behind the wheel, America.
And we're back. This article from the Huffington Post, a complete blatant propaganda piece of crap. But I'm going to read it, and we're going to expose the spin put on here. Unlike what I reported to you earlier about al-Qaeda troops actually aiding and abetting UN NATO forces to take over the current legitimate ruler of a sovereign nation. This is the way we do it. We can't I mean, the world's divided up like a big risk board. I mean, everybody's got their country now. There's nowhere to attack. It's hard to keep these proxy wars going and justify this huge military-industrial complex. Well, here we go. This article from the Huffington Post, and I'm so disappointed in these guys, you complete sellouts. They say, first off, they frame the whole article in this lovely light here. Here's the headline. Anticipating the Syria of tomorrow, strategies to decrease violence against innocents. Okay, so right off the bat, we're talking about, there's innocent lives being at stake here. We should be concerned. Come on, all the liberals out there. This is your key words: innocence, democracy. I don't want to make you think too hard, so actually you're going to get annoyed and probably turn off the radio because you don't want to be challenged in your thoughts. So, but come on, let's all get excited, shall we? Maybe we should protest. Maybe we should. That'll make a difference. You can't freaking tie your shoes or find a job, but you're going to go protest something that you don't even understand. Did I just say that? I did. And I promised to be nice to the public. Our station producer back here was saying, maybe you should stop attacking the public so much. And I'm like, well, the way I look at it, if you're insulted, you're one of those people that really needs to hear this information the most. Oh, wait. This could be a call. Hang on.
Well,
Good afternoon. You're on the air.
you're one of those people that really...
Good afternoon. Oh no, we lost you. We totally lost you. Who knows? Maybe it was a call from. Maybe they'll call back. Call back if you can. I heard the radio going off in the background, and it often does. Dang it! Hopefully, you were one of those liberals that just loves to go to war now all the time. I don't. I was hoping. I just prayed that somebody would call in and disagree and say, no, Mr. Wordsworth, you're completely off your rocker. We're spreading democracy in the world. We're not losing our civil rights and liberty. The American economy is actually recovering. Well, please come up. We need to have a debate. We need to have this discussion. We can talk about Obamacare. I got to read a whole bunch of articles. I mean, talking to people, I love to go out and I do my own little Gallup poll. I go out there and I ask people, what are your opinions? What do you think about this issue, that issue? On the Obamacare, one guy was like, well, it's only going to cost us 1% of our income, our tax. And I'm like, really? That's what you think it's going to cost? You're going to get something for nothing. That's always the belief. We can get something for nothing. I swear to you, there is no free lunch on this planet. Everything has a price. Everything. It's just the way it is, but only history will show. I mean, actually, history has shown. It's pretty clear when you look at the track record of tyranny versus liberty. Tyranny is kind of like ahead by 20-1. We've only had a few actual free democratic republics in thousands of years of history. There's only been a few bright and shiny moments. And they probably only occurred because you actually had active, informed citizens taking part in the government, making sure that they weren't getting fleeced by propaganda, psyops, false wars. It's an old racket. Even money itself is a racket. I myself am a capitalist. I'm a free market capitalist. Until you come up with a better system, I don't know. I obviously am not for big corporations. In fact, I'm totally against for big corporations, especially foreign ones coming here. I'm not a xenophobe, but my goodness, you can't have foreign corporations giving campaign contributions to our elected officials that are supposed to be representing our interests. You just can't. I mean, do you ever ask yourself, why is this economy the way it is? Are you old enough to remember or see the decline of where we've come from? I mean, if you really want to know, go back to 1964. I mean, I'm not that old, but I can read data from 1964, and you could get a gallon of gas for a quarter. A gallon of gas. In 1970, you could buy a really nice car for $3,000. Most of these homes that we have in Milwaukee in the area, your average home, $20,000. And get this, you worked a job that paid at least started you off at $15. Worked somewhere between 20 to 25 as you actually made your way up that ladder, and you had benefits. And meanwhile, gasoline costs a quarter, 30 cents a gallon. Look, the American economy, if many analysis agree that we were built for a $2 a gallon gas economy. $2 a gallon gas. Well, what are we at? 4? We're hovering near 4. I mean, that's kind of the average. It's going to go up. So look. I'm going to take another commercial break. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to continue to rag on the Huffington Post for their spin and horrible propaganda and just exposing just how blatant it is and why we need to pay attention. We can't fall for this. Just please don't believe the lie anymore. Stop walking around voting for Obama's not going to save us. Romney's not going to save us. The Congress is bought and paid for, and they're no longer representing our interests. And what was the first Revolutionary War over? Well, at least in theory, no taxation without representation. I mean, that's what the kids are taught. Actually, it's a lot more complicated than that, but I'm not going to touch that subject. But basically, I like that idea. No taxation without representation. That's the only difference between a tyrant forcibly taking my money at the tip of a sword or the point of a gun. I need to be represented, and so do you. We the people. That's what that phrase means. All right, guys. Be back in a minute.
You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com.
And now it is time to make light of the issues.
The world doesn't make sense. It's never going to make sense. Take abortion, for example. Just another one of those issues that we're always being preoccupied with. But isn't the solution pretty much evident? Let's just make a law legalizing abortion. That's right, just legalize abortion. And in how many generations will it take before those who decided to kill their babies don't have enough people to populate versus those who decided to keep and raise their babies? Doesn't the problem just solve itself? You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. It's like the roaring 20s all over again. The stock markets are well above 12,000. It's as if nothing could go wrong, or could it? The truth is, the American economy is not as strong as it actually appears. The job reports for June were down, manufacturing down. The actual CPI rate, if you adjusted it correctly, would show that unemployment is at a staggering 22%. 46 million Americans are on food stamps, and guess who runs that program? Not the government, no, Goldman Sachs. I'm telling you, the situation here is more abrupt than we think. Wake up, America. We have hard times coming. And we need to prepare for what lies ahead.
And we are so back. I'd like to say that the number to call in, if you actually wanted to, and you are listening to this broadcast live today, it would be 414-935-2951. That's 414-935-2951. You can find it on the front of the riverwestradio.com website page. What am I reading right at the moment? I'm reading about Syria, the Huffington Post, and their horrible spin that they put on this whole event. I'm pointing out the exploitation of the American mind and how easy it is basically to lie and fool us these days because we're not informed. Okay, anyhow, so Huffington Post put out this article, Anticipating the Syria of Tomorrow, Strategies to Decrease Violence Against Innocents. Well, you want to decrease violence against innocents, don't you? I mean, as soon as you hear that, that sounds like that's a good idea. But in this case, the innocents are the current regime. I mean, whether you agree with Bashar al-Assad isn't the point. He is the rightful ruler of a sovereign nation, and it's very arrogant of us to think that we should go depose him on the basis of what? Our lies put out by NATO, UN, and American foreign policy. Hillary Clinton, what a whore. She's just selling. She's like the whore of the Bible. I mean, it might be over dramatic, but the beast. Anyhow, here's the pitch on Syria as it's presented by the Huffington Post. They say, I'll just start off with the article. Events are so, and I'm reading this in this NPR sort of Femi voice because I'm mocking the article. That's why I'm not using my regular newscaster voice. So there we go. Events are so fast-paced in revolutions and wars that there is scarcely a breath taken to anticipate the next stages of unfolding drama. Oh, the drama's unfolding. Okay, that's my interjection. But anticipating each scenario is essential to minimizing the death of innocents in Syria at this moment in time, as well as planning for safety and security for all minority groups in the long run. There you go. That sounds good, doesn't it? We want to provide safety and security for all minority groups. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I actually do agree with that, but what a vague term, phrase. What does that mean to provide safety and security for all minority groups in the long run? That basically means putting it under our military occupation. And then the article continues, who is currently at risk? Oh my goodness, there's somebody at risk. Thank God it isn't me, but I should read on because that'll make me feel better. Everyone is in the long run. Oh, gee. In the short run, it is mostly rural Sunnis who have borne the brunt of the criminality of the regime's methods of torture and killing. Well, there's the first lie. There we go. The rural Sunnis have been murdered by Al-Qaeda forces that were helping. It was confirmed that Al-Qaeda armband-wearing, card-carrying members of Al-Qaeda were going around with UN monitors. I mean, come on. Are we against the Al-Qaeda or not? Well, look, the first lie of the article, aside from everything else, is that the rural Sunnis have borne the brunt of criminality. You know who these rural Sunnis, if any of them are? They're the exact extremists. There's actually a small minority in Syria that is actually against the Syrian government. As I understand it from listening to interviews with actual Syrian citizens, people of Syria, they said, look, this whole thing is a blatant lie. There's only a small town, I think it's Homs, the exact town where all these extremists, what else could you call them? The very ones that, check this out, here's the next article. These extremists are the ones that actually destroyed Christian churches and attempted to blame it on Bashar al-Assad's people. Well, here's what the article says. Who's currently at risk? Well, next in line are any Christians or even Alawites who have dared to stand opposition to the regime. Well, no, actually, your American-backed Al-Qaeda forces are responsible for this massacre and the destruction of Christian churches. And now your Huffington Post article is trying to make it seem like it's Bashar al-Assad's fault. Well, the article continues saying, next are more privileged urban opponents of the regime who are facing increasing torment. Then there is the danger of being caught by criminality and kidnappings for personal gain. What? You mean the Al-Qaeda forces that are, even according to Iraqi's foreign minister, are flooding Iraq right now into Syria and causing rampage and destruction while the American public reads crap like this? Well, after Assad releases tens of thousands of criminals into the streets in order to create chaos and necessitate the continuation of his regime. You know, that's funny because that's what Barack Obama wanted to do in Africa. He was all for that plan. Let's let the criminals out. Okay, I'm not going to touch that one right now, but it's true. It's true. Finally, many armed gangs and groups are not part of some of the more principled opposition military forces, but are instead exacting terrible revenge on Alawites and others. Okay, you got to understand, when I'm reading with that voice, that I'm reading the actual article that I do not agree with, to make the distinction. It's the only way I can do it. We're on radio. I can't visually show you these things. So the article goes on, how bad will it get soon? First off, the grammar is just, how bad will it get soon? I didn't write this. The Huffington Post did, so I'm not responsible for that sentence. I could only make fun of it. Well, they want to reassure you, you mindless public that reads this stuff. Again, I'm not speaking to my listeners. I'm speaking to, hopefully, the mindless public that would, for some reason, be tuned into a show that would not be very interesting to them at this moment because this information's confusing. It makes you think. Well, you know what? You don't have to be that smart, actually. I mean, you really think about it. There's a lot of people that couldn't tell you what side the North Pole was on. Was it Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere? Or if even the North Pole is a real thing. I mean, a lot of people think that Santa Claus comes from the North Pole and therefore it's fiction. So, good God. Anyhow, and I promised I would stop picking on the public. It's just so hard. I don't know what it is. It's just, it's not that it's just fun to pick on the public because I'm not moving myself ahead by, picking on somebody else. It's not the situation. There's no real growth on my part here, but I don't know. I'd like to think that I'm attempting to provoke them into actually looking into these issues. But I was saying that I've met plenty of people that don't understand issues. They're not very educated, but they, without a doubt, understand that they're being lied to, they're being manipulated. It's not hard to convince them that we're basically being soft-killed over time and everything's being brought down to extreme poverty level. We're being brought on par with China and third world countries. There will be no middle class soon. Anyhow, I got to go out with this article explaining, it's just so deplorable. I really don't want to read much of it, but what lessens violence against innocence? That's the question. Let's read this crap here. There is great virtue in the United Nations efforts. Okay, that in itself is... There's no virtue in the United Nations efforts whatsoever. They have a long track record of giving aids to Africans through their vaccinations. They have let's not forget Darfur, the way UN troops stood there and let that massacre take place. In fact, it wouldn't even have taken place, as I understand it, if it weren't for the UN intervention. But nonetheless, this article from the Huffington Post insists that now there is great virtue in the United Nations efforts to secure a ceasefire and a transitional power sharing arrangement. Transitional power sharing arrangement. It means depose the current sovereign ruler of a country, of a sovereign nation, the legitimate ruler of a sovereign nation, and hand it over to extremist Muslim forces, the very ones that you're warned to be afraid of. Well, the article continues. Our instincts for justice, including mine. Your instinct. Who wrote this article? Because, if I'm ragging on your article, I got to tell who wrote it. Mark Gopin, Gopin, director of CRDC, George Mason University, co-owner Meiji Tours. My goodness, it's a blog from the Huffington Post. Mark, you're out of your freaking mind, buddy. I mean, you either believe this. I don't know how you could believe it because your information, you'd have to get it directly from Hillary Clinton and no other source. You obviously have not spoken to any Syrians. Anyhow, he continues to say, our instincts for justice, including mine, his, tend to scoff at this option because with so much blood on their hands, the Baathists and the Assad family deserve no more power at all in Syria or anywhere else. Really? Do you decide that? Because, like, when we bombed Cambodia and just killed all those people, did we deserve to be in power? I mean, why don't you point this finger back at you? Look what we did to Iraq. In the name of what? In the end, we bought those people off with money, and now it's just... Man, I really don't get it. Anyhow, he goes on to say, however, the history of violence and violence mitigation suggests that the frequency of United Nations interventions, no matter how seemingly unfair... Well, yes, at least he admits that the United Nations interventions are unfair. Unquestionably lead to fewer deaths of the innocent. Oh, and that's exactly, there you go. We have to remove your rights and liberties. Hold on, I got this fan blowing on me, and now for some reason I got car exhaust. Screw it, I'm going to go to commercial and come back because I can't have this thing blowing. I don't even know what I'm smelling. Just like somebody's barbecue, which is totally impossible because we're in a radio booth here, but it is, so... I'll be right back. Let me play you some more comedy. I got these new comedy segments in here. They're actually serious issues attempting to make fun of them, but that's the joke in themselves. It's just they're really not funny. All right, we'll be right back.
And now it is time to make light of the issues.
Economists, that's right, economists. You know they're about the most useless thing. They're paid to be wrong 2/3 of the time. And I'm telling you, our economy, they keep telling us our economy is getting better, right? Right? I mean, what a joke. It's like Hitler reporting back to the German people that he's winning the war. Isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, just look at the jobs market right now. It's just ridiculous, huh? We must be having a jobless recovery. A jobless recovery. You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. Every day, people wake up all over the world and hear commercials like this one with soft music and a soothing announcer's voice telling you how great some big corporation's new technology will help you and your family. But it is important to remember, these companies could give a flying fuck about you or your family. That's why Breaking Down the News has made this commercial to counter their commercials. Don't be fooled by them. The battle is to gain control of your mind through media propaganda. Just say no to evil corporations and their slick computer graphics designed to brainwash viewers. Vote no with your dollars, and we will regain the health of our nation, one consumer at a time.
Well, I was continuing to read from the Huffington Post article that quite frankly makes me disgusted. It's a blatant piece of propaganda. It's interesting at the bottom of the article, he mentions that he states that his experience working on the ground in Syria for the past 7 years across religious lines and across class lines suggests that to him there's a large nucleus of Syrian people, majorities and minorities, who are ready to build a democracy together. Is that, man, how could you even, look, people, I mean, the people listening out there, I'm attempting to explain, by and large, people in the Middle East don't have a frame of reference for democracy. They've never experienced democracies. Democracies aren't something that you just drop into place, like inserting a mail program or something, delivering mail or putting in phone lines. Democracies require guys like Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, they require informed citizens that are, first off, even familiar with the concept of democracy. There has never been a democracy in the Middle East, and they're not like nobody's wanting one. It would really change their way of life. It would destroy their culture in a large sense. It really would. And whether I agree with their culture or not, I do not agree that I have any right, nor any nation has any right, to make this judgment on them and obliterate their culture or interfere with it. I guess that's the stance of non-interference that I have. Well, let's just send this article to the vaults of hell, because that's where it belongs. And let's follow up with another cheery point. No, none of the news I read here is cheery. I guess that's the whole point of it. We try to make fun and light of it just to, I don't know, you have to. You can't take this too seriously. Meanwhile, it is so serious that, honestly, after listening for a while, people can get freaked out. And maybe you should be. You kind of need to go through that for a second. You need to get to that point where you really understand what's going on in the world, in the nation, in your local community. And a normal human reaction should make you freak out. You should seriously be worried and concerned, but you can't stop there. Honestly, I mean, take it from my experience. One cannot lose the will to live because of the way the world is. I mean, if anything, it's even more encouraging. The fight is to not have our minds taken over. Literally, I mean, it is an information war. We are, as a society and as a people in all countries, easily manipulated by media and propaganda. We've grown up in an artificial reality. In other words, all of our means of earning income, getting into business, our connections, our channels, the very way that we receive news and information is basically, by and large, controlled and manipulated. It only is directed at putting together a general consensus of accepted beliefs. Most people don't know where their food comes from or how it gets here or what's in it, and they don't seem to care either. I mean, I can safely make that generalized statement. Most people do not know where their food comes from, how it got here, or what's in it, or why that should be a concern. Well, okay, now I've had my 2 seconds to rant about that. Let me go on and pick on Mr. Obama some more. That's right, I'm about to pick on our president. That's something that the Obama Truth Team doesn't like to hear. It's the first time in America that a president has assembled a team, a committee, actually a truth team, to go out there and arrest, if necessary, people who speak bad against the president. See, you can't speak bad against him because he's black. Well, my goodness, if he was a white president, you could speak bad against him, but you can't. You know what that sounds like? Racism. It absolutely sounds like racism. I don't care if he's freaking purple green with pink freaking polka dots. If anybody got in here and did what Obama has done, I have to speak against him. I spoke against Bush. I thought all the Democrats were on my side, or at least we shared a common side during the Bush regime. I quickly find out that Obama takes over, and you guys basically roll over. Suddenly, warmongering, civil rights, none of this makes sense. It's just kind of like literally just the plan is, let's just flood the country with illegal immigrants, have them vote for all you Democrats so that we can implement your new socialist utopian system, which is actually a dystopia. It won't be happening. You're not getting a free lunch, and definitely the American middle class taxpayer won't be paying for it because there won't be an American middle class for much longer. Of course, those poor fools are convinced that it's purely the Democrats that are doing them in, and the socialists or the communists, and you're half right. But you got to understand that the neocons, the fake conservatives, that's why they call them neoconservatives and not, yes, they're the new ones, but they're also fake. They're socialist communists too. They're just selling you on the other end. It's called controlled opposition. when you're very rich and powerful, you actually fund your opposition to issues, to laws, whatever you need to do. You fund the opposition. You recruit well-meaning fools from the public, from a grassroots movement. You give them money, basically a budget, and you let them speak against you and your policies all they want to. But meanwhile, you started the whole thing in the first place. It's controlled opposition. Well, there's your lecture today on controlled opposition. Why am I complaining about Obama today? Oh, there's no end to it, but I almost miss Bush. I loved complaining about him. Now I got to complain about somebody that I don't even really want to complain about you, but Mr. Obama, because you're a teleprompter reading insignificant person. You actually don't lead this country at all. You're a liar. You're a deceiver. You're bought and paid for. And my God, I don't even know the story behind you, where it really begins and ends. You just showed up out of nowhere. A lot of poor fools thought that Obama was going to help the black people in this country. Well, have you noticed that help didn't come? No free house, no free car, no free anything. You want free health care? You don't get it. You already have free health care. Already. Not everybody in this country does, but not everybody needs it. But right now, the illegal immigrants that come into this country, they understand if you show up at the hospital, they have to treat you. They have to take you. It is against the current laws, unless they change that law. They must give you medical care. And often they'll make American citizens with insurance wait while they treat you, the illegal immigrant. Okay, well, I digress. The article here that I'm complaining about is Obama, and he says to the soldiers, get this, pay up. That's right. Obama threatens to veto a bill unless it hikes health care fees for service members. Ah, there you go. Our free lunch is going to cost service members more money. Oh, but you support the troops, don't you, out there? You put your little yellow ribbon on your bumper sticker. You wave your little flag on 4th of July. You support the troops because you feel cool doing that. It makes you feel good. I would challenge that assertion. I would say, I don't know if you really do support the troops. You should talk to actual returning vets from the Iraq war. You should talk to them. Many of these guys know what's going on. You should learn about organizations like Oath Keepers. Who are the Oath Keepers? All military and police and military personnel take an oath not to the president directly, not to even the flag. They take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Why? Because that document is the legal precedent that upon which it's the cornerstone of all of our civil rights and liberties. In it are many checks and balances to keep tyranny at bay. But the tyrants have figured out a new way to circumvent that by, one, taking decades to breed an ignorant public, everything from our failing school systems to the brainwashing coming through television. That's right. That's right. So, what does this article say? It says the Obama administration on Friday threatened to veto a defense appropriations bill, in part because it does not include higher health care fees for members of the military. This quote from the White House, which wrote in an official policy statement expressing opposition to the bill, which the House approved in May anyhow. The administration is disappointed that the Congress did not incorporate the requested TRICARE fee initiatives into either the appropriation or authorization legislation. My goodness, that is one of those sentences that I just read it. And I almost can't tell you what that meant. The administration is disappointed that the Congress did not incorporate the requested TRICARE fee initiatives into either the appropriation or authorization legislation. I guess it's, in other words, Obama's disappointed that Congress did not charge the military more money for healthcare, period. My goodness. President Obama's most recent budget proposal includes billions of dollars in higher fees for members of TRICARE. The military health care system is known as TRICARE, and is part of the administration's plan to cut nearly $500 billion from the Pentagon's budget. $500 billion, huh? Why don't you, not attack Syria? Or, I don't know. There's got to be a better way to say $500 billion. I mean, what is $500 billion compared to $15 trillion and God knows how many unfunded liabilities? I think the unfunded liabilities are at least another extra 50 to 70 trillion over the next 20 years. Well, some fear the administration's proposal is an effort to increase enrollment in the state-run insurance exchanges mandated under the president's controversial health care law. The administration urged the House to reconsider the fee increase, arguing they are essential for DOD to successfully address rising personnel costs. The House bill has significant bipartisan support and is easily passed by a margin of 299 to 120. Well, something got done. We managed to pass something, and what did that accomplish? Vets are going to have to pay more money for their health care. But you're going to get free health care somehow. Isn't that interesting how that works? Somehow you're going to get, you're not getting free anything, but, well, remember Rick Perry? And I say that because it's it wasn't even that long ago, but where's this guy been? He kind of fell out of that race pretty hard after he had that psychotropic moment there where he just couldn't answer anything, couldn't answer any questions, just fell apart. I mean, these guys, it must be horrible. The drugs they take just really rack their brains. But he melted in front of the camera one night, and it was just hilarious to watch. But anyhow, he's back in the news. Rick Perry grandstands against Obamacare. Oh, well, there you go. I mean, those Republicans with half a brain out there that are instinctively refusing to participate in the Obamacare, now they're expected to believe that Rick Perry actually is on your side. Oh, he cares. Mitt Romney must care, right? He must care because all the Republicans are like a big herd of cows moving over the cliff to support him. And a lot of you guys don't want to think out there. You want to just go along to get along. You don't want to be socially ostracized for your political beliefs. You will buy any crap and lie they hand you for the sake of what? It is just baffling. Well, anyhow, Texas Governor Rick Perry announced today that he will not comply with Obamacare. He refuses to expand Medicaid and will not establish a state-run health insurance market exchange. Oh, you must be a conservative. No, he's not. Rick Perry is grandstanding because he has failed to protect Texans from the threat of the new IRS-enforced tax against people who decline Obamacare. That's right. If you don't want Obamacare, that's fine. It's not a free country, though. You have got to pay an extra tax. A fee. Is it a fee or is it a tax? It's been declared a tax, but it's really a fee tax. Maybe we should call it a fee tax. There. Oklahoma State Representative Mike Ritz plans to introduce legislation that does protect the state's citizens because it authorizes Oklahoma's Attorney General to defend citizens who fail to purchase insurance against the federal government, and it criminalizes enforcement of the individual mandate. The proposed Oklahoma bill is based on model legislation from the 10th Amendment Center, the Federal Health Care Nullification Act. Although Bilderberger Rick Perry pretends to be a conservative and constitutionalist, his opposition to Obamacare is a lightweight effort that fails to protect individuals. Nonetheless, it is still helpful in the movement to nullify Obamacare. If states refuse to set up insurance market exchanges, the federal government says it will implement the insurance exchange for them. However, Michael Bolden of the 10th Amendment Center said, if the federal government had the resources to do this in the first place, states wouldn't even be part of the equation. It is unlikely that the feds have the funding to do this, and they'll need the complicity of the states to pull it off. Oh, you know what? I wish right now I had a tech guy sitting in the studio here. I would play that campaign promise where Barack Obama is sitting there on video, and they say, what about mandated health care? And Obama, to quote himself, He said, and just Google this, you'll find this video out there. He said, what was he? I'll do my best to remember. If mandated health care were that simple, then we would just merely tell the homeless people that it's against the law to not own a home. Well, there you have it. I mean, you can't cure homelessness by forcing people to buy state-owned homes or state-sanctioned or approved housing, because they don't have money. I mean, if that wasn't obvious in my point, if you don't have money, you can't. That's why you're homeless. Some people truly are homeless because of their choice, but many, I would surmise the majority of homeless people do not want to be homeless. Who in their right mind would not want a home, an actual home, not a thing that the landlord yells at you or is infested with cockroaches? I mean a home. Everybody wants a home, or at least I would hope you would do. You know, if you're a nomad, wandering nomad, that's not my point. My point is, when it comes to raising families, children, we need homes. Well, the proposed Oklahoma bill is based on model legislation from the 10th Amendment Center, and nonetheless, it is still helpful in the movement to nullify Obamacare. If states refuse to set up insurance market exchanges, the federal government says it will implement the insurance exchange for them. That's pretty bold, isn't it? Why are we concerned about this issue? We're concerned that Congress is passing legislation that basically forces you to buy policies from insurance companies that you may or may, they're the guys who wrote the bill in the first place. Who wants the Obamacare Act more than anybody? The insurance companies, because it's like car insurance right now. You have police officers that will pull you over, and it took a long time for Milwaukee to get this. It was going on all over the rest of the nation, but you had to have mandatory car insurance. And that's great for business for the insurance companies. And you could argue, well, that's necessary, maybe. But it still came down to that the police were able to go around and, in a sense, force you to get insurance eventually. Otherwise, you got to keep paying these tickets, and they're pretty hefty. They really are. You might as well just get car insurance in the long run. I guess that's how it works. So in any case, now we're being forced to buy healthcare insurance, and the reason many Americans don't have health care insurance is because they can't afford it. And if you've ever gone to government health care, you don't want it. You really don't. You sit there for hours to see a guy that really could care less about your problem. And in the end, he's just going to hand you a prescription. That's what it comes down to. I mean, hypochondriacs aside, that's basically what they're there for. They're there to cut you or give you pills. They don't really have any true holistic alternative health solutions. Well, the Obamacare cost to taxpayers? Well, let me tell you, no one knows how much Obamacare will cost. Isn't that great? Nobody knows. But whenever government gets involved, prices, corruption, and insider deals, we know, escalate. Senator Jeff Sessions says that Obamacare will cost taxpayers, at least we got a quote from Senator Jeff Sessions. He says Obamacare will cost taxpayers $2.6 trillion over 10 years and an additional $17 trillion in long-term obligations that are unfunded. Those are those unfunded liabilities. With no plan on how to pay for the increasing spending, here's a clue about how it might be funded. The IRS will be adding over 16,000 new agents. 16,000. There we go. We're job creation in America. 16,000 new federal agents working for the IRS. Nice, huh? I wonder why they need them. What would be the sudden demand for 16,000 new IRS agents? Unless they're going to be coming after those who don't want to participate in the Obamacare plan, or even worse, say you don't like this at all and you're not going to comply. This is a huge issue. Well, they don't need to bring the guns out yet. They got the IRS agents. They're going to help you make your decision for you. That's right. When we don't run our lives, somebody else runs it for us. This is a good example. Our lives are now being run by psychopaths and sociopaths. Rampant corruption, not the run-of-the-mill normal corruption that you would expect from a growing, evolving human civilization. No, 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 no. This is very professional tyranny. What's the Obamacare cost to individuals? Let's go over this. The states go along with implementing Obamacare. There are two programs for uninsured individuals to get coverage. Number one, state health insurance agencies will be an obligation for many uninsured people and those who become uninsured when their employers dump insurance as a benefit. Ooh, that's no good. Lose that. According to Forbes, a single individual with no dependents who earns $32,000 will be obligated to pay $2,400 for the Obamacare plan, or will get dinged with the $695 tax if they refuse it. What? I thought this was free. I thought it was only going to cost 1% of your income. Boy, you guys. Anybody that believes that, man, please continue to listen. Please continue to listen. Basically, according to Forbes, Forbes is a magazine. It's a credible magazine, except, I'm sure they're known for their lies and propaganda too. But, I mean, as an institution, Forbes is recognized as a source, an actual legitimate source. And if they're putting this out, you got to wonder. But according to Forbes, a single individual, someone that's not married and has no dependents, and earns $32,000 a year. That's $32,000 is not that much. Well, he'll be obligated to pay. He or she will be obligated to pay $2,430. That's the exact figure, around $2,400. Okay, for the Obamacare plan. Or what happens if you don't? A $695 tax. It's kind of funny that it's just not $700. It's kind of like, should we say seven? No, $695. How about, why not $69.99? Well, $695 works. And healthy people are likely to opt for the tax, though. I mean, I guess it's cheaper to just pay $695 than for the Obamacare plan of $2,400. You can get more on this article that Forbes wrote. Forbes, actually I should just click that article, but let me finish this one. Currently, healthy people can purchase cheap insurance with a high deductible. While researching, I was able to find a plan offered by HealthNet, which is an IFP PPO Advantage 6500, that has a premium of $102 a month with the $6,500 deductible in California, which is half of what an individual would spend on Obamacare. Well, there's no guarantee that, it's a cheap insurance might mean, no coverage either. So, I mean, it's not necessary. But his point is that somebody's actually offering this cheaper than what the government is. No kidding, huh? Medicaid will be available to people who fall below and slightly above the poverty line. The poverty line was $22,000 for a family of four in 2010. I'm not sure where it's at now. But if you are a family of four, according to 2010 figures, and you made $22,000, let's just divide that. That's $5,500 a year you're living off of. Wow, I wonder if that's even. No, that's pretty tough. $5,500 a year. Divide a year, $5,500 by 12 months. I'm not quite sure. I'm not that good at math, and I do have a calculator, but I'm not pulling it out. But the point being, it's nothing. So I guess you still get Medicaid. But you got it anyhow. It's already in Badger Care. Don't you get that? And people that could afford health insurance already had health insurance. I'm not really sure what the great improvement has been here. What is the great? It's all into this, guys, that we're going to be getting free stuff, and we're not. It's like those student loans that everybody's been taking for the last 4 or 5 years. Hiding out in college, trying to improve things while not doing anything to actually improve the job market. We're just kind of been hiding in school, collecting those student loans, you know what? You got to pay those back. And let me tell you something about those federal student loans. Those are not forgiven. They will haunt you for the rest of your life. Wherever you go and get a job, they catch up with you, they'll start deducting money out of your paycheck. So you're paying back those loans whether you know it or not. It's not like the money that you get from your parents, where you can just be kind of like, screw my parents, what can they do? Well, they could sue you, but oh, this is going to be completely different. You know what? I haven't done a commercial in a second here, and I totally should. I mean, it's kind of, dang, we're almost up to the 5 o'clock hour here. I don't know, I didn't read. I'm going to come back and go through all this news real quick because there's a bunch of stuff I didn't read. So I'll do a rapid fire news shut off here. Let me play you some more comedy because I don't know. Just comedy is funny. No, humor is healthy. It really is. All right, here we go.
And now it is time to make light of the issues.
War criminals. I mean, we used to hunt down war criminals, put them on trial, and have them executed. Today, you have so many war criminals running around today. You've got Kissinger, George Bush, Barack Obama. All these guys should be put on trial. George Bush can't even go to Switzerland anymore. I'm telling you, they wanted to arrest him. But in America, it's just, yeah. You're listening to RiverWestRadio.com. The kitchen is the heart of the home, but at Monsanto, we're a megalithic agricultural group attempting to destroy farmers all across your country. We bring you horrible foods that attack your stomach lining, DNA, give you kidney and liver failure. Monsanto, bringing Franken foods to your family at home. Don't you just hate us? Say no to GMO.
And we're so back. All right, I promised to rapid fire through the news, and that is what I will do. All right, we're going to start. We'll start with this. Evidence mounts. DC insiders worry about holders in action on Wall Street crime. Oh, man, I wish I could read this whole article. More and more Washington insiders are asking a question that was considered off limits in the nation's capital just a few months ago. Who exactly is Attorney General Eric Holder representing? As scandal after scandal erupts on Wall Street, involving everything from global lending manipulation to cocaine and prostitution, more and more people are worrying about Holder's seeming inaction, or worse, in the face of mounting evidence. Confidential sources say that the president's much-touted mortgage fraud task force is being starved for vital resources by the Holder Justice Department. I laugh because it's not a Justice Department. It seems to be unjust. It's the unjust department. Political insiders are fearful that this obstruction will threaten Democrats' chances at the polls. Nah, it probably won't. Nobody's paid attention anyhow. Investigators and prosecutors from other agencies are expressing their frustration as ever-growing list of documented criminals by individual Wall Street bankers continues to be ignored. Of course, we'll never bust the guys at Wall Street. It's just, it's like the drug dealers that are sanctioned by the government to deal drugs. They can't, but they deal lies. And anyhow, I got to read quick because we're running out of time. Meanwhile, the scandals and revelations go on. The new LIBOR rate-fixing scandal led the bank-friendly and conservative magazine The Economist to run a cover about banksters and to publish a piece entitled The Rotten Heart of Finance. People like Robert Reich are saying this could be the story that finally brings down the banks. We'll see. Where are the indictments? But there have already been stories, lots of stories, terrible ones about corruption, bribery, perjury, forgery, and a dozen different kinds of fraud. There have even been stories about laundering money from the Mexican drug cartels, including a new lead that surfaced this week. There's already ample evidence that Wall Street bankers have defrauded cities, deceived investors, and cheated their own clients. Some of the bankers even rewarded themselves in that time-honored tradition of gangsters everywhere with hookers, blow, and orgies. The problem isn't a shortage of scandalous stories. No. We've seen a lot of those. What we haven't seen, at least here in the United States, is a single indictment of a senior Wall Street banker from the United States Department of Injustice. And that's what has these political insiders concerned. Questions raised? You bet. A growing number of people are privately expressing concern at the Justice Department's long-standing pattern of inactivity, obfuscation, and obstruction. Mr. Holder's past as a highly paid lawyer for a top Wall Street firm, Covington and Burling, by the way, is being discussed more openly among insiders. Covington and Burling was the law firm which devised the MERS Shell Corporation, which has since been implicated in many cases of mortgage and foreclosure fraud. Nobody we talked to wanted to publicly demean a public official's reputation. Few of the people who are criticizing Holder privately want to fuel the right-wing witch hunt against him, which recently led to the Republicans' House's shamefully politicized contempt citation. But more of them expressed concerns about Holder and expressed them strongly than we expected. The Attorney General is the nation's chief law enforcement officer, but when it comes to Wall Street, they note that there's not a lot of federal law enforcement going on. Obstructing the task force? Apparently Holder is. The Mortgage Fraud Task Force stands at the heart of the latest controversy. In January's State of the Union address, the president said that, quote, this new unit will hold accountable those who broke the law. Pardon me while I laugh. Speed assistance to homeowners. I'd laugh again, but, it's getting redundant. And help turn the page on an era of recklessness that hurt so many Americans. And yet there have been no concrete results since that announcement. One source familiar with the task force said that the federal agencies were actively participating in the process, but that the Injustice Department was preventing the group from getting even the relatively meager resources promised to it by the Justice Department. While nobody provided precise numbers, several sources said the task force could show concrete results in 20 or 30 more staff members, yet Holder's Justice Department won't make them available, said one source. By contrast, Republican officials allocated more than 1,000 people to investigate the savings and loan scandal. Do you guys remember that? You got to look up Google savings and loan scandal if you're even into this. All right, I wish I could pay more time to this article, but we don't have much time left here. So this article from Op-Ed News, farmers file suit against Monsanto. Well, that's good news. The following is a press release from MOFGA, which is the Maine Organic Seed Growers and Trade Association. MOFGA is an organization that advocates for organic growers in the state of Maine. Good thing. The organization holds several events to help educate the public regarding organic and sustainable food production. For example, in September, the organization sponsored the Common Ground Fair on the campus of Unity College in Unity, Maine, that often draws 60,000 people. This fair holds various workshops while also allowing people to become more educated regarding local and organic foods. MOFGA also certifies and sells seeds, which helps reduce... Okay, enough about MOFGA. Here's the article. 75 family farmers, seed businesses, and agricultural organizations representing over 300,000 individuals and 4,500 farms filed a brief today with the United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington, D.C., asking that the appeal court to reverse a lower court decision from February dismissing their protective legal action against agricultural giant Monsanto's patents on genetically engineered seed. The plaintiffs brought the preemptive case against Monsanto in March 2011 in the Southern District of New York and specifically seek to defend themselves from nearly 24 of Monsanto's most aggressively asserted patents on GMO seed. They were forced to act preemptively to protect themselves from Monsanto's abusive laws, fearing that if GMO seed contaminates their property despite their efforts to prevent such contamination, Monsanto will sue them for patent infringement. Well, they've been getting a lot of support, and we're happy for the farmers. We have to support them every time they go up against these big corporations like this. Here's another great article. The truth about Obama's tax proposal and the lies the regressives are telling about it. It's a good one. To hear the media reported, President Obama is proposing a tax increase on wealthy Americans. That's misleading at best. He's proposing that everyone receive a continuation of the Bush tax cuts on the first $250,000 of their incomes. Any dollars they earn in excess of $250,000 will be taxed at the old Clinton-era rates. Get it? Everyone is treated exactly the same. Everyone gets a one-year extension of the Bush tax cuts on the first $250,000 of income. No class warfare. Yet regressives, Republicans want Americans to believe differently. The editorial writers of the Wall Street Journal say the president wants to extend the Bush tax cuts only for some taxpayers. They urge House Republicans to extend the Bush tax cuts for everyone and thereby put Senate Democrats on the spot by forcing them to choose between extending rates for everyone and accepting Mr. Obama's tax increase. Pure demagoguery. What other articles do we got here? We've got this one, government by the banks for the banks, the ESM coup d'etat in Europe. On Friday, June 29th, German Chancellor Angela Merkel acquiesced to changes to a permanent Eurozone bailout fund before the ink was dry, the quote says, as critics complained. Besides easing the conditions under which the bailouts would be given, the concessions included an agreement that funds intended for indebted governments could be funneled directly to stressed banks. According to Gavin Hewitt, Europe editor for BBC News, the concessions mean, that the Eurozone's bailout fund, backed by taxpayers' money, will be taking a stake in failed banks. Risk has been increased. German taxpayers have increased their liabilities. In future, a bank crash will no longer fall on the shoulders of national treasuries, but on the European Stability Mechanism, known as the ESM, a fund to which Germany contributes the most. In the short term, these measures will ease pressure in the markets. However, there is currently only 500 billion euros assigned to the ESM. That may get swallowed up quickly, and the markets may demand more. It's still unclear just how deep the holes in the Eurozone's banks are. The ESM is now a permanent bailout fund for private banks, a sort of permanent welfare for the rich. There's no ceiling set on the obligations to be underwritten by the taxpayers, no room to negotiate, and no recourse in courts. Its daunting provisions were summarized in the December 2011 YouTube video originally posted in German, titled "The Shocking Truth of the Pending EU Collapse." Good article. I wish I could read more, but we're going to blow through this. Here we go. Discovery of magnetic sensors in fish and rats may explain why some people can feel Wi-Fi smart meters, power lines, and electropollution. It is well known that many people are sensitive to electromagnetic pollution. Wi-Fi gives them headaches. Being near high-voltage power lines could bring on migraines. Using a cell phone unleashes similar symptoms. Until recently, there was no medically understood mechanism by which electromagnetic waves could be sensed by humans. But now, thanks to some fascinating science summarized here, that mystery may be closer to being solved. Scientists from the University of Munich, led by geophysicist Michael Winkhofer, said they've located and identified internal compass needles in the noses of rainbow trout. Wow. These are called magnetosensory cells, and they turn out to be far more sensitive to magnetic fields than anyone previously thought. This is interesting. The cells sense the field by means of micrometer-sized inclusions composed of magnetic crystals, probably made of magnetite. These inclusions are coupled to the cell membrane, changing the electrical potential across the membrane when the crystals realign in response to a change in the ambient magnetic field. This explains why low-frequency magnetic fields generated by power lines disrupt navigation relative to the geomagnetic field and may induce other physiological effects, said Winklehofer. Electrosmog is getting worse by the day. While the study did not look for magnetosensory cells in humans, their identification in fish proves that biological systems can and do create these highly sophisticated instruments which sense electromagnetic fields. As any physics student knows, electricity and magnetism are much the same thing. Rotate a coil of wire around a magnet and it produces electrical current. High voltage power lines inversely produce a magnetic field. As the number of modern devices emitting electromagnetic fields continues to rise, rise, people are becoming increasingly concerned about the cumulative effects on their mental and physical health. Some of the sources of electromagnetic pollution, sometimes called electrosmog, which exist right now, include smart meters, mobile phones, Wi-Fi, broadband, circuit breaker boxes, power supplies to computers and appliances, treadmills and exercise equipment, cell phone towers, commercial radio and TV transmissions, and this, hair dryers, blenders, and other high amperage home appliances. You know, I never really would have thought about that electromagnetic pollution from a hair dryer. While each device seems harmless on its own, the combined effects of them all cross a threshold that theoretically could be sensed by humans, who may also have magnetosensory cells. Some humans have an uncanny ability to always know which direction is north, even when lacking obvious environmental cues, such as the star configurations at night or patterns of sunlight during the day. It is possible that some humans possess magnetosensory cells and unknowingly use them to feel which way is north. Very interesting. We don't have the actual data on that, but we got to get off the air because it's the top of the hour. You've been listening to Breaking Down the News. I am Michael Wordsworth. We're going to be back Friday with another show, a very long one on Friday. We go from 3:30 to 6. Be a great time for someone to call in, and I should probably dig up a guest. It's always nice when we have guests on the show. Till then, I don't know. Let me, what can I leave you with? Gee. How about I just play my outro. There we go. And we'll just get out of here. I got more commercials, but we'll get back to them. Thank you for listening. I hope this was informative. We're going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3:30. Till then, peace out and take care.